have like around of experience in MicroStrategy. I started working when MicroStrategy on version 8.x, 8.0.1 to be precise, and then we started working from 8, 9, and now the current version is the 10.x. Okay, from the MicroStrategy, I have handled almost all the components, the architect, the administration, dashboard development, and even the configuring and installation of MicroStrategy on various servers. From the training perspective, I've been training the candidates like it's almost like more than 2 years now, and yeah, I mean, like that depends upon the what kind of a training content the folks are looking out for. So I have trained multiple candidates across the various components of MicroStrategy, and we're going to discuss what would be the training contents and how MicroStrategy can be configured and everything during our entire training course. So I think this is pretty much about myself. I'm just going to walk you through on few things over here. I'm going to walk you through about the MicroStrategy architecture. I'm going to walk you through about what all the training contents we're looking at from this particular course, and we will even see a sample report, sample dashboards, and how exactly it could be worked it out. Okay, so I've already shared my screen. Please let me know once you can see the screen.
Yes, okay.
Okay,
yep,
so yeah, perfect. So before we actually go and see the training content, okay, I really wanted to share the MicroStrategy BI architecture. Okay, how exactly the MicroStrategy works. I think you both the guys have a good exposure to the ETL, so I'm pretty much sure that how the data how the data from the source systems, how the ETL processes those picks up those files and processes the data, and finally loads those entire set of the data in the data warehouse. So I'm pretty much sure that I'm pretty much confident that you're already aware of that particular process. Okay, so we have source system in place, we have a ETL in place, we have a data warehouse. So once your data has been residing in your data warehouse, any BI tool, either it's a Cognos, MicroStrategy, any BI tool, what it does is it's going to fetch the data from the data warehouse, and finally it's going to display in the format of a report or a dashboard as per your design. MicroStrategy, whenever you perform any kind of a request, right, whenever you run any report, whenever you run any dashboard, it does not hit directly the data warehouse. Whenever you configure the MicroStrategy, there's something you configure is you even configure a component called metadata. So if you look over here in this particular flow diagram, I have shown you the metadata as well. So whenever you perform any request over here in the MicroStrategy, the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to come to its corresponding metadata. A metadata is a repository in MicroStrategy which stores or which records all the information, all the definitions of the objects that you create in that environment. So either you create a new object, you modify a new object, or you delete a new object. Okay, I'm using some terminologies over here. Really don't get worried about that. We're gonna see how to create each and everything in the coming course. But yeah, if in case I create new attribute, if I create new filter, new matrices, new prompt, new report, new dashboard, anything, either I create, modify, or delete, everything would be recorded in a metadata. So like if in case I've created an object which is pointing to a specific table and a column, that particular definition I'm saying, okay, the definition of the object would be recorded in the MicroStrategy metadata. So now let's say example, I'm trying to run a report with the region sales. I have an object which shows me the region information. I have an object which shows me the sales information. So when I use this particular both the objects in a report and I try to run it in MicroStrategy, first thing it will come over here in the metadata. It will read the definition of the region, it will read the definition of the sales, and based on that it's going to formulate the SQL. So the metadata is a place where it reads all the definition and it formulates the SQL query based on the object, based on the way you have defined your object. Once that particular SQL query is ready, okay, it's going to open a connection to the data warehouse, fire that particular SQL, fetch the required data, and then come back to the MicroStrategy and display the data in the corresponding format. So basically, MicroStrategy does not interact directly with the data warehouse. First, it will come to the metadata, read the definition, formulate the SQL. From there, it's going to open a connection to the warehouse and fetch the required data and display as per your format, which is set it up in the report or a dashboard. Is it clear? Any question with respect to the architecture over here? How to configure the MicroStrategy, how to configure the metadata, that we're going to definitely see in the training course. I'm going to walk you through entire configuration in detail, how to install the MicroStrategy. It's a very simple thing, but yeah, how to configure the metadata, how to configure it to the data warehouse, that would be definitely covered up in the coming in the training course, and we can discuss in the coming classes. Any questions so far? All right, perfect. Okay, so we discussed about the architecture, and I think we are good from the architect perspective, right? So how the MicroStrategy does all the talking with the corresponding components. The next thing that we're going to just quickly walk through is about the training content, so that it will give an idea of what kind of topics we're going to cover during the entire training course. So I've just listed down as a main topics, that is the MicroStrategy Desktop, or you can even say as the MicroStrategy Developer. So when I say the MicroStrategy Desktop or the MicroStrategy Developer, that's been listed over here. It says the desktop and the developer. The desktop is in that particular topic we're going to see how exactly the MicroStrategy can be configured, what all objects we have in MicroStrategy, how exactly the query execution flow happens. That all we're going to discuss in the MicroStrategy when we discuss on MicroStrategy Desktop. We're going to even see the MicroStrategy server and the server configuration and the administration topics. So we will see how to configure the server, how to configure the metadata, how to configure the project source, and we will even see what is the role of metadata. And as Gaurav said, I'm going to add over here how to even do the mobile configuration. Then thereafter we will see the MicroStrategy Architect. When I say MicroStrategy Architect, as an architect, okay, if my role is an architect, we're going to see a few concepts about the modeling, the logical modeling and the physical modeling, and we will see how to design an entire architect within my MicroStrategy project. So how I can work with the tables that I have in my data warehouse, and how I can create all kind of an objects, all kind of a schema objects. Those are like attributes, facts, hierarchies, transformations, and so on. So these are all just terminologies, but yeah, we're going to definitely see how to create each of them in detail. After the architect, we're going to discuss on the developer, where if you are playing a developer role, we're going to see how to create reports, dashboards, filters, prompts, and everything. And we're going to even cover a few advanced topics, like we have the how to tune the MicroStrategy reports, how to create all the advanced objects in MicroStrategy, and finally we're going to discuss on the web component, how to access the MicroStrategy web, how to configure the MicroStrategy web, and finally there would be a one topic where we're going to cover up the entire development of the dynamic the documents and the dashboards, how to create the flash component dashboards, how to create dynamic dashboards, linkings, drillings, everything would be covered up over here. Okay, so this is just very high level, like what all training contents that we are looking out for. Now, as I said, whenever you install the MicroStrategy, okay, there are the two components that we have. The first thing that we're going to discuss now is the MicroStrategy Developer. The window that you're looking right now is the MicroStrategy Developer. Previously, it was even said as MicroStrategy Desktop. Okay, so MicroStrategy Developer is the tool component where your entire architect and designing has been done. So as a developer or an architect, my major work, it's going to be done via MicroStrategy Developer tool component. So over here, if you look on the left hand side, whatever the components you see, whatever the folders you see, they are all called as the project source. When I say a project source is a object. I would not say an object, but yeah, it's a component in MicroStrategy which gets connected to the metadata. So if I go back to the presentation over here, Okay, as I said, whenever you work on a MicroStrategy, the first thing that it's going to come to is the metadata, right? So basically, whenever you work on MicroStrategy, and on the left hand side, whatever the entry points you see, all those are called as the project source. Just remember one thing: every project source is one-to-one mapping with your metadata. So all this particular project source, the training, the project source, MicroStrategy analytics module, every project source are connected to a specific metadata. There's a one minor difference that you see over here. The boxes are same, the icons are same. Some are represented with a globe icon as well, and the other without a globe icon. What does this means? A MicroStrategy can be connected into various modes. Either it could be a 2-tier mode or it could be a 3-tier mode. When I say a 2-tier mode, it's a direct connection where everything is residing local to your machine. Okay, I have a project source which is connected to a metadata. That particular metadata is local to my machine. I cannot have this, no one can use this particular project source. No other associates or no other folks can connect to this particular machine and use the MicroStrategy environment, because everything is local, nothing is shared. Whereas if you look over here with the globe icon, it says that the project source has been connected in a server mode. So I have a machine which is configured as a server. I have installed the MicroStrategy server. I have configured the metadata. I have configured the project source. So all the other machines, wherever I have a remote client machines installed MicroStrategy, they can directly access this particular server and they can do all the architect and designing. So basically a MicroStrategy can be configured either a 2-tier or a 3-tier mode in the MicroStrategy developer tool. 2-tier is a direct mode. 3-tier means it's a server mode. There is something also called as the 4-tier mode when we access the MicroStrategy web. That's what we're going to discuss in next few minutes. But as of now, from the MicroStrategy developer component, we just have a 2-tier or a 3-tier mode. So let's just try to access one of the project source. Okay, let me just first disconnect. Okay, I'm going to access the MicroStrategy project source called training. The first thing that I have requires the credentials. Once the authentication has been done, I can access the corresponding MicroStrategy projects. So once my the credentials have been accepted, you will see a certain objects over here like customer analysis module, the HR module, tutorial, or my first project. All these are MicroStrategy projects. Each project is connected to a specific data warehouse. So now you're working on a project where I will have schemas basically. Okay, where I have schemas or a specific data marts. Like I would have one schema or a data mart showing me some kind of an HR information. I would have some showing me the profitability data. And each of this domain, like I do not want the user who has access to the HR data to go and see the profitability data and vice versa. I will create a different projects, each project pointing to its corresponding specific data warehouse, and so that whenever users log in, they can go to the corresponding project, run the report and fetch the required data. So each project could be connected to a specific database. It's not compulsion that it has to be the same database. One project can be connected to Teradata, the another project can be connected to Oracle, or both of them could be connected to the same database type, but it could be a different schema. So that depends upon your project to project and architecture to architecture. But yeah, once you log in into the MicroStrategy project source, you will see list of all projects which is pointing to the specific data warehouse or a data mart. During our training course, don't worry, during our training course we're going to see each and everything, how to configure all these components as well. Now when I go inside of one of the project, you will see all the default folder structures. You will see all the objects list over here. Each project would have by default the same folder structure. So it's not that my one project will look different as compared to the another one. No, by default whenever you create any new projects, it will have the same default folder structures. So if you look over here under the MicroStrategy tutorial, I have a same folder structures called public objects. I have something called as schema objects and so on. So all these default folder structures are there whenever you create any new project and you work on it. So it's just that it's a consistency across all the projects within the MicroStrategy. So if you look over here under the HR analysis module, you will see the same folder hierarchical structures. Okay, all right. Just to give an overview about the MicroStrategy types of objects before we continue over here. Okay, so I'll just at a high level, I'll just list down the types of MicroStrategy objects that we have. We have something called as the schema objects. We have something called as application or public objects. What are schema objects in MicroStrategy? The schema objects are the objects that are directly pointing to a specific database table and the column. So you have a list of tables in your data warehouse, and on top of that you create your objects in MicroStrategy. So let's say an attribute. An attribute is a schema object which is pointing to a specific table and a specific column. The objects in MicroStrategy, objects which are directly pointing to a specific table and a column. Whenever when you start working on MicroStrategy project, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to create all the required schema objects. You have attributes, facts, hierarchies, transformation, importing tables, everything. These are all schema objects that these are the first thing that you're going to create in a project. Once your schema objects have been created, the schema objects will be used to create the application or the public objects. So whatever the application or the public objects you see over here, this is just a subset of a list. Okay, you have filters, metrics, consolidation, custom groups, and so on. All this would be using a schema objects for their definition. This application objects, this public objects are not directly mapped to the tables, but they are indirectly via your schema objects. And once you are done with the schema objects, once you are done with your application of public objects, on top of that you're going to create all the reports, documents, and the dashboards. So this is just an overview of like what kind of objects we can create, what types of objects we have in MicroStrategy, and we're going to cover each and everything in detail. So coming back to the MicroStrategy developer. Okay, so we're going to create all the schema objects. If you look over here, I have a separate folder itself where I can create all the schema objects. I have a separate folder for the public or the application objects, and I'm going to create accordingly as per my requirement. Now let me just run a few how the MicroStrategy, we're going to see how the MicroStrategy reporting works. Okay, so I'm just going to run one sample report over here. I've already placed certain objects. Okay, I have placed a month attribute, and I have placed a revenue and revenue. These are all pre-created objects. Okay, I have already done. But if you look over here, I just created the schema objects. I just created the application objects. I have to drag and drop in the report, and when I execute the report, our data is going to be fetched accordingly. In MicroStrategy, you really not have to write any kind of a SQL as such. It's just that the way you create your object, my SQL would be generated, and based on that, my data is going to be fetched out. So if you look over here, at no point I have written any kind of a SQL, but if I go and show you the SQL query, how it's been generated, this is the way. Okay, so if you look over here, that depends the way you have created your objects, and once you use the objects in MicroStrategy report, MicroStrategy itself will generate a SQL and saying, okay, I have a select clause coming from selecting specific tables, doing the aggregation of the matrices, fetching it from a specific table. This all SQL would be executed in the data warehouse, and my data is going to be fetched out. So at no point of time you're going to write any kind of a SQL. My SQL is the optimized SQL is going to be generated by MicroStrategy. But yes, that depends the way you have created your objects, the way you have define your objects, and thereafter it's going to generate the SQL and fetch the required data. Okay, so it's a powerful tool where you really don't have to worry much about it, but yeah, you just have to make sure how you have to design your objects. This is the sample report. I understand, when I was just discussing with Gaurav, and he says, okay, we're really looking out from the MicroStrategy perspective, like how it does all the transformations and everything. If you look over here, we just have a sample report which is showing me the revenue information along with the transformed last month revenue as well. So if you look over here, for say for example August 2010, for current month my revenue is something around $748,000. But if I look at the second column, which is 694,057, this is the transformed value which gives me as of last month. So if you look at the July value, it is 694,057 and it's matching perfectly over here. So we have created two objects which will give me the value of a current month as well as it will give me the value of a prior month. Okay, so MicroStrategy itself does it. Okay, you don't have to really worry about that. Even if I select just a 1 month, it's going to show me the data in both the columns, one showing me the data as of current month, other showing me, if you look over here, it's 855,000 which is as of November 2010. So this is how we, the MicroStrategy is a really it's a very flexible reporting environment where you can have revenue data or whatever the matrices data you can display into a report across the various time dimension. You can have it like year till date, month till date, same value, what would like same matrices, what was like a year back, a month back, 2 weeks back, all kind of a transformation, all such kind of an aggregation can be even reported in MicroStrategy environment. So this is just one of the sample report that I have just shown you, but yeah, there are a lot of things that we can actually do it over here, and everything we will cover up in the training course. Okay, now if in case, now this is from the month perspective. Okay, let me just quickly create one more sample report. I'm just going to create a new report on fly. I'm going to say okay, I want to create a new report. We will just drag and drop few objects over here. Let's say we're going to drag and drop the year attribute, and for this particular year we're going to see some revenue information. Okay, so these are our objects pre-created, so I'm just dragging and dropping in the report section, and now when I run this particular report, it's going to show me the year information and its corresponding revenue. As a user, I'm saying okay, this is the year, this is the revenue, 2010, 2011 and 2012. I see that for 2012 I have a huge revenue which is around like $14.8 million which I've been generated. I need to see which specific quarter really outperformed it. Okay, from the year perspective. Okay, I'm good. Okay, this is how what is the revenue been generated. But now I need a split based on the quarter. From 2012, which specific quarter has really given me the good revenue? So even I can see a split on fly. So now let's say for an example, I just want to see the data for a quarter based on this specific year. I'll just right click over here. I will actually perform a drilling, and I will say that I want to drill to a quarter level. So I'll just drill to a quarter level. It's going to regenerate a new report, and if you look right now, it gives me the split based on the quarter for a year which I have selected. I had just selected the year, and now if it's showing me the data, the revenue data for all the 4 quarters of year 2012. So I have 2012 quarter 1 till quarter 4, and it's just showing me a split up of revenue information. Again, same thing. I see that okay, 2012 quarter 4 has really outperformed. So now which month has really given me a good revenue value? So I'll just again right click over here, go to the drill, I will go to the down, and I would say yes. Now I need to see a split up based on a month. I'll click over here, and now if you look over here, it's giving me a split based on the individual month as well. So I've just given you one example over here where you have actually drilled down to an entire hierarchy from year to quarter and from quarter to a month, and now you can see I have not replaced my revenue metric. My metric is same. It's just that I'm trying to drill down to a specific hierarchical object, and based on that my every time a new report has been generated and corresponding revenue data has been reflected. So if you look over here, it becomes very simple when you do an analysis on the fly, where you're just not seeing the data at one level, but once my report has been executed, you can actually drill down to a specific level and do all the further analysis. Okay, all right. Just want to show you from the a more kind of an functionality over here. You can even add some kind of an alerts. When I say an alerts, let me just close both these reports. Okay, don't worry, we're gonna see each and everything, how to enable all this drilling, how exactly all this functionality works. We will definitely cover up in each of the in the training classes. Okay, let me just add one more attribute, and I really wanted to show you some kind of an alerts which can be added in the MicroStrategy report as well. If you look over here, we have placed couple of attributes. We have the year, region, and the revenue information. I have a requirement which says that I want to add some kind of a formatting wherever my revenue, let's say $2 million, I want to make the entire background as green. Even that can be done, so which will really attract the attention, and you really do not have to scan all the records. So if in case I want to add some kind of an alert formatting, I will say, okay, wherever the revenue is more than 2 millions, I want to just display it in a green color, which will make it very simple to understand from the visualization, like, okay, this is the year, this is the particular region for which it has generated more than 2 million of revenue. So I would add some kind of formatting. Okay, I'm just going to add it quickly, but yeah, I'm going to show you each and everything in detail. So now let's say if revenue is greater than 2 million, okay, I'm just going to change the formatting to a green color. There are a lot. I've just taken a sample over here. There are a lot of alerts that you can actually add it, and all the things we're going to discuss it up in detail. So now if you look over here, there are few records which just got highlighted in a green. The few revenue cells which got highlighted in a green background, these are the values which are more than 2 million. So if you look over here, you really do not have to scan. It visually attracts over here, and you will say, okay, this for 2010 Northeast revenue is more than 2 million. For 2011 Northeast, it's more than 2 million, and so on. So apart from drilling, you even have some kind of I would say a conditional alerts. So now if in case you want to show some up arrow, down arrow, everything, every such small things even can be done in a MicroStrategy report. Okay, so the MicroStrategy desktop or a developer, as I said, it's purely from the architect or a developer perspective. You actually design an entire thing under this particular tool component. The users, the end users, I would say the end users or the business users will never really have an access to this particular tool component. They will just have an access to MicroStrategy Web. That we're just going to discuss in few minutes from now. But as a developer or an architect, you will have an access to the MicroStrategy developer tool, where you actually import all the tables, you create all the objects, and finally at the objects, as I said, the schema objects and the application objects, or you can even say as public objects. And once that's been done, you're going to create your documents and the required dashboards. Okay, now as I said, from the desktop, it could be either a 2-tier connection or a 3-tier connection. There is something even called as we even have a user interface. It's a UI. It's called as the MicroStrategy Web. So you even require a web server to host the MicroStrategy Web. And MicroStrategy Web is something that where the end users log into that, and they can just run their reports to do the analysis and make some. And it's just going to help to make them decisions. So I'm accessing the MicroStrategy Web over here. When I try to access any one of the project, the same thing. I just have to authenticate myself, and once the authentication has been done, I can browse it to a specific folder and run my document or a dashboard. So I just have to authenticate. I'll log in as an administrator. Okay, and now if you look over here under a create option, I really can't create any kind of a schema object. You will not see an option either to create a table, to create an attribute, to create a fact, to create a hierarchy. No, even from the application object I can just create new report or a document or just a prompt or a new metric. That's it. Only limitation things I can actually create from MicroStrategy Web, and that's the reason it says the MicroStrategy Web is purely from the end user perspective, just to run some reports, just to create some reports and do the data analysis. Okay, so now let's we already have reports all been created and in the MicroStrategy environment. So from the MicroStrategy Web I can just browse to a specific folder. Okay, let's say I want to run any specific dashboard, so I'll just go to that specific folder over here. I'm just going to execute one sample dashboard, and once I click on that particular dashboard, all the corresponding data sets would be executed and data is going to be reflected in the format that we have designed. Okay, so we'll just wait for a few seconds over here. My dashboard is going to be ready. And if you look over here, a dashboard has been displayed successfully. It's just a sample dashboard. It displays the top 10 world airports. You have all the airport information with the YTD volume, passenger count, everything as a combination of a grid and a chart. And whenever I do a selection, if you look at the bottom screen, based on the selection, my images are getting reflected. Even my monthly trend has been getting reflected. So you have a flexibility to select what kind of target data you are really looking out for. So as soon as I change the selection, let's say Frankfurt, the image got replaced with corresponding airport, some text information, and even the monthly trend got updated. So you have a flexibility to select the target, like okay, if I do a selection something over here, certain components of my dashboard needs to get reflected accordingly. So this all we're going to see definitely in the training course, how to set up all this linking part, and we even have some kind of tabular structure. If I click on historical trend, altogether different format and different data would be displayed. So on the first tab it gives me the graphical and the tabular format with the images and everything. Now if you look over here, I have a selection that can be done on a specific airports, and all the graph charts and the grid charts would be displayed. So if I deselect some airports, corresponding graph section would be reflected. So if I just have 3 airports selected, the data for only 3 airports have been displayed in the graph section. If I want to change the chart type and I want to make it as a line chart, now instead of a bubble grid, my graph has been showing as a line chart. So now if I select certain airports, corresponding line would be added, and based on that I can see all the passenger counts. So this is just a sample dashboard which really requires skills to make sure that all the formatting has been set correctly, or the linking part has been done, and once that's been done, it looks really beautiful. The dashboard I would say is the selling point of the MicroStrategy, where you can embed n number of things. You can have a media file, you can have a Google Map integration, everything can be incorporated in the MicroStrategy dashboards. Whatever the dashboards you create over here, you can even configure it to use it on a mobile device. So whenever users log in from an iPad or an Android tab, they can just directly browse it to a specific folder, run their dashboard, and the data is in front of them. Now let's just try to create some dashboards on the fly. We even have some functionality called as the visual insights. So what we'll do is we'll just create one sample. We'll try to create a one dashboard on the fly. Okay. Let me just see if we can use. Yeah, I can use this particular queue. I would say next. Okay, so I'm just trying to create, this is not a dashboard as such, but yeah, it's one of the component called as visual insights, where it gives a flexibility just to drag and drop certain columns and my data can be represented as a dashboard. A visual insight is a dashboard, but it does not have all the functionalities that you can see in a actual MicroStrategy dashboard. But yeah, if you just want to drag and drop, select some formattings, it becomes very simple. When even as you know, if you're like just want to create the dashboard within a few seconds, you can always opt for the visual insights. Just drag and drop some objects, select the formatting, and very beautiful dashboards can be created on fly. So now let's say I want to see some visualizations over here. I'll start with the basic grid. Okay, now if you look over here, I'm seeing the data for a country, corresponding cost, and a discount data. If I add some category to a rows, my category information would be added. So it's a simple grid which I have added. I've added country, category, cost, and discount data. Now in case I want to add one more visualization, I would say I want to add a heat map. I would drag and drop certain columns over here. Now let's see, I want to group it by category. I'm going to just drag and drop, and I want to do a grouping by subcategory. I want to indicate the color data by, let's say, revenue, and I want to indicate the size data. Let's say revenue, I want to display it as a color. I'm just going to drag and drop, nothing else. So I'm going to revenue, I'm going to indicate by size. Profit, I'm going to indicate by color. Okay, so now if you look over here, instead of category, let's place the region. That would give me a very good dashboard. Okay, so now if you look over here, I've just drag and drop certain objects and I'd create a very beautiful heat map chart. So this is a grid chart. This is a heat map which gives me data in terms in the format of blocks, and the color block size indicates the revenue value, color indicates my profit data. More green color, more is the profit. The red color indicates the less profit. Size of the block, more size of the block indicates more revenue value, and so on. Now if in case I want to add few more visualization, I would just keep on adding the visualizations over here. I will select the position where exactly I want to display it. Okay, if I want to display over here, I would just drag and drop. I would select some kind of, just on the fly. It's become so simple and straightforward. Just drag and drop some objects and select the visualization. Now let's say I want to select a bar chart. Here you go. Just click on simple things, select the formatting properties, and my dashboard is ready. Even if in case I want to show it in a presentation, I would just click on the presentation view. If I want to go to a presentation to a client and I want to show some data or some dashboard on the fly, I'll just create the dashboard using visual insights. I will select some objects, I will select some formatting properties, and if I go to the presentation view where I can actually represent, okay, this is how exactly the data looks like in a various formats, and it really looks beautiful when you present such kind of a data to the users. So okay, if you look over here, within a few minutes I've just created one simple dashboard on the fly. But yeah, we're gonna see, this is just from the demo perspective, but everything we are gonna cover much more in detail in the coming classes. So I'm just gonna take a pause over here and I'm gonna open like any question you have with respect to the contents or the topics that we have discussed so far.
I have a question. Yes, I have a question. Does it cover the architect? I mean, not the architect. I think there is a tool called Architect. I'm not talking regarding that. Like if I wanted to be a Microsoft architect, how much I need to know, or your course would help me?
Yes, definitely it's going to help you as a MicroStrategy architect. If you're looking at from the architect role, okay, you just need to know how my table structures are. See, table structures and BI environment are altogether different, right? If you're pretty much sure how my table structures are, what all my dimension tables, what are my fact tables, how all this are related to each other. We're going to cover all those concepts. We're going to cover the logical modeling and the physical modeling concepts. And thereafter, I'm going to show you how, if you're playing as a MicroStrategy Architect role, how you're going to design each and every components. When I see a MicroStrategy Architect, it's purely with respect to all schema object creation. So whatever the schema objects, as I said, I'll go back to the MicroStrategy object. So whatever the schema objects you see over here, I've just listed down few objects. There are a couple of more. So MicroStrategy Architect is the way you create your attributes, the way you define your relationship. It's going to helpful once you define the relationship, based on that my SQLs are going to be generated. So this all comes under the MicroStrategy Architect, and definitely we are going to cover in the training. So as I've already listed over here, a MicroStrategy Architect is definitely a part of the training course.
When you say a MicroStrategy Architect, that's a tool that's the tool that's used by the architects. That's what you mean?
It's not a tool. You're going to design your architect in the MicroStrategy developer itself. It's a role. Your role is a MicroStrategy Architect, and you're going to design all your objects, all the schema objects to define your architect.
I see.
We do not have a separate architect as a tool. Okay.
I see there is one.
Sorry?
Show me your topics in the display MicroStrategy Architect. What is that?
The MicroStrategy Architect, right? That's what I'm saying. It's not a tool, but under the MicroStrategy Architect, I'm going to cover the logical modeling, the physical modeling, and how to import all the tables, creating the facts, creating the attributes. So this is all architect designing. There's something called as architect designing. There's something called as developer or application designing.
So an architect.
Does it answer?
Yeah, architect would take care of these things, whatever you have listed under the MicroStrategy Architect. Okay.
Exactly, that's correct.
He is a role to do such things to be an architect. Because I know in companies they're saying from business objects. So can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
From the business objects, they're trying to migrate to the MicroStrategy.
Yes, there are various migration projects which are going on. Either they migrate from BO to MicroStrategy or Cognos to MicroStrategy. So Architect plays a major role over here, with they're going to design all the schema objects and the linking parts, the relationship parts, and there are some MicroStrategy developer which they are going to create all the application objects, dashboards, and reports.
So for why they migrate from BO to the Micro, what would be the reason?
That depends what kind of functionalities they are really looking out for. Okay, there would be certain functionalities which BOs are not supporting, and that's the reason.
What are the things you think? I thought it's maybe a cheaper in the
No, MicroStrategy is one of the costliest tool available in the market.
Oh, really?
Trust me. Yeah, it's very costly, because you have to purchase each and everything. Even if in case you want to use an architect, it's associated license for it. Okay, if in case you want to use a mobile component, you have a corresponding license for it. So whatever the and I would say whatever the component you use, you have to pay for each and everything. It's one of the costliest BI tool available in market, but yeah, it really supports everything. And the performance point, the main selling point is the dashboards and the mobile compatibility. Trust me, it looks very good. It generates very good dashboards with all the functionalities, and even you can see it from the mobile. It's everywhere, I would say, and that's the reason it's one of the leading BI tool currently in the market.